Hello. So, I received this tweeter from Edwin from zelfbouwaudio.nl. It is a Philips tweeter. It's the AD21601 RT8. So I assume 8 ohms. And there's a magnet and a screw hanging on there. And another magnet. Both are mine. So what we're gonna do is gonna take a look inside, and by the looks of it, he took a look inside there as well, since the tapes here are gone. Oh, that's the wrong screwdriver. Let's see what we will find, because I have no clue. Those are too big, but I think, no, it's not gonna work. I need a smaller screwdriver. I'll use this one. I wonder what kind of, how this is working, because it's much bigger than the Visiton, but it also does not have magnets on the front side. So I guess they went for a more like a true ribbon or a single-ended version. It would be interesting. Ooh, so it looks like it doesn't want to come off. Oh, wait, no. So there might be something behind this. Oh, maybe we can rip this off. Yes, we can. Ah, well, this is a classic ferrite. Again, even tinier traces than the ones we had on the Visiton. But let's look at the magnet. What the fuck? Let's look at the magnet motor. So, two huge ferrites, which I was expecting kind of, because this one is very bulky. But Jesus, that's big. And a piece of, I assume, felt or cotton. And they have a back pole. So this is a interesting design. There's a loose screw here. So I wish to have this piece of metal off, which might be a problem. So let's see if... First off, there's a... here's some damping. Is this in frame? Yes, it is. And then we see the back pole piece. So that's why they use like... So we don't have to remove this metal. I just remove this cotton or whatever it is. Interesting, nice, very nice. That's expensive. This is, I don't think, a cheap tweeter to begin with, but so a huge pole piece. If you look at this side, you can see it. So it has two magnets, and then it has a huge piece of steel here that acts like a third magnet, which is, you know, they did not want to go to El Nico or some really expensive magnet. So what they did is use two big ass, like really big, cheap magnets, and used one piece of steel. And since on this side and on this side, it doesn't really matter how big the magnet is, but it does matter in this part. So that's why they used a pole piece instead. So this will be north, for instance, and this will be south, and this will be north. Or they might have, yeah, well, that's what it is. So it's not acting like a true ribbon, like north to one side and south to one side. It is more like a planar magnetic, but it uses huge magnets and a pole piece that is even painted or something, I don't know. probably to prevent rust. But then again, you would think this is maybe a little bit thicker, this back piece, pull plate or whatever it's called. But then again, it has quite a huge surface area here, and then it, you know, makes it sort of a small magnet, although it is steel, but it becomes magnetic because of these two magnets. So that's very nice. It's weighty. Cool. So let's take a look at the membrane, because, well, it's not going to be a surprise. It's going to be a normal planar magnetic membrane, but let's see how they made it. So I think it's crimped on. Especially, okay, so the connection points are here, and they go straight to the foil here. So I'm just gonna cut them, because we're not, you know, then we at least can see where the wires were. Oh, I'm not gonna reuse this. Then let's see if we can get this off. It's funny, the foil is wider than the whatever they used to put it on. I think it might be PCB. Looks like maybe it's even like copper. Not even PCB, but just pure copper. Oh, there we go. I'll snap this tab off and close my eyes. The rest is all plastic and looking terrible. So it's only one coil, really simple. Then we have some aluminium on the sides, and my question will be, is this connected to the coil? But it's hard to see because there is some felt, or what is it, rubber gasket kind of material. Ah, there we go, it's PCB. So it is PCB. It has very tiny traces, even smaller, way smaller than the other one, which is, well, of course it's normal because it uses only half the amount of coil. It has only one loop instead of two loops, or the other one was like this. It's actually three. So this one goes like this in a round circle motion, while the other one was like going this and that way, and then it went down. So this is really tiny. But what I wonder about is this huge piece connected. That's what's interesting to me. No, I don't believe it is. No. So they got aluminium here and here, but it's actually not connected to the coil. So the coil starts off here. They used kind of the same method. They had a piece of PCB, strapped the foil on one side, and had some holes in the PCB. They strapped it down with the aluminium facing, in this case, upwards, because the foil is put on here on this side. And then in these holes you can, you know, put some solder bead in there and connect the wires to the connector points. Let's see if we can. Oh, they used two. Oh, well, they used actually a real copper rim. I don't know why. So this is the foil. It's connected, or it's glued to the PCB, which is really thin, with the aluminium towards the PCB. So here's the aluminium. This is the PCB. Well, that's paper thin. 0.18 millimeters. So actually it's nothing. It's like only a barrier. So the reason why they probably used copper on the other side is just give it stiffness. This is not, you know, it's not doing much. Yeah, and they left the copper here, or the aluminium here. It's not connected to the coil itself. They just left it there. Then it's glued to, by the looks of it, a pure copper piece. Then attached the actual PCB over it, and then soldered it. But the only weird thing is that you could use PCB for this task as well instead of copper. So I don't know why this copper did not perform a function. It was sitting like this, or like this. Yeah, like this. No, it had, by the looks of it, no function except for stiffness maybe, but I think there's cheaper ways to do this if you just want some stiffness. It's also kind of, you know, corroded, but... So actually kind of the same design coil-wise, except for it has only one coil. Going like this, round and round and round and round and round. Let's see how the connection points are made. Yeah, just the typical connection points. So one is on the side and one is on the internal side of the coil. Just the way I would like, or I would do it, or the Neos do in the BAG Neos. So design-wise, this is actually quite, well, boring. I would not say boring, but like typical compared to the Visiton that had quite a nice coil design, but they could only do this weird coil design because they used 3 rows of traces, I believe, instead of 2. So let's see. I saved the coil because it's an interesting coil. So I'm not gonna throw away the Visiton coil. Let me see. They have 1, 2, 3. Yes. So they had going through the magnetic field, 1 row of traces, 2 down, and then back up. And that's why they could make this weird design compared to this very simple design. But we have to think about, maybe Philips did not, you know, they probably did not have these Alnico thin magnets or something. I don't know why. And they opted for like a huge thing. And then they only had 1 gap, 2 gaps. So their only option is making this kind of simple coil. So the Philips, although highly regarded, I think, they are single-ended, and the Visiton, which probably is cheaper, has actually a far more refined coil as well as magnetic system. It is push-pull. It is better. It's better overall, and probably goes lower, I think. This might, well, I'll look it up. But this is as cheap as you can get. The Visiton was done better, in my opinion. Well, anyhow, that's fun to look at. Very cool. I cannot measure how thick this is. Well, I can. Shall I try? But there's also glue on there, so I'm not sure. It feels really thin. So I have to measure it with aluminium on there. So it's not going to be, I cannot determine how thick the aluminium is and how thick the mylar, or in this case Kapton, is. But I might be able to like see what both together are, and there might be some glue as well. So that's 4, and that's 8. This might give a good result. It might not be really accurate. 0.28. Oh, I'll post it in the video what the actual size is. But yeah, it's gonna be thin. This is including aluminium, so this is really tiny. Also, the coil comes loose, which is expected after this while. In any case, it's a very neat design with the back pole piece. It's made like a normal dynamic loudspeaker in terms of using a back pole piece, which is, you know, you don't see that very often. But yeah, back then there were no neodymium magnets, so if you wanted to have quite a lot of force, you would have to do this kind of stuff. You can imagine this piece here does cost money, and probably quite a lot. Really cool. So that was the Philips. This one. And I'll see you next time. It was fun. Thank you, Edwin, for sending me these items, because I only know them from when I was like 10 or something, or 12. I don't know. Maybe a little bit older. Who knows? But anyhow, something I could not afford ever back then, and it's very interesting to see how they were made. So thank you. And this is very fluffy. What a fluffy stuff is this? Feels really nice. I don't know what it is. See you around next time. Bye bye.